All right. Wonderful. Wonderful. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Saturday Morning Mastermind. I'm your host, Samantha Studebaker-Carl, and I'm here with my good friends, Catherine and Chris and Karen. And I imagine we'll have a couple more people jumping on here pretty soon. I think Sandy's coming in, and I'm not sure about everybody else, but it's great when we have lots of people to share their insights and share your experiences and all that kind of thing when we have these discussions. So today's topic is how to be a great leader without authoritarianism. And hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly. But anyway, before we get going, the reason we're talking about that particular topic is because we're studying verse 57 of the Tao Te Ching. And that was kind of Wayne Dyer's interpretation of this verse in his book, Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life, Living the Wisdom of the Tao. And we're discussing chapter 57. So before we get started, though, I want to give everybody an opportunity to introduce themselves. And so go ahead. Everybody can jump out, say hey, where you are, who you are, all that, you know the drill.
Good morning. This is Catherine in Boulder, Colorado. Glad to be here this morning. We may have a guest joining us who contacted me earlier in the week and was asking for the information and stuff. So that'd be great. His name is Eliyahu.
Good morning. Sandy Root here in sunny Miami Beach. I'm a little sleepy today. And I have to read the verse right now. Okay. Looking forward to it.
Good morning, Karen Lohoff in Chandler, Arizona. And it's a cloudy day, so we may get a little rain, which will be interesting.
Oh, I thought I had stayed muted. I was going to let all the ladies go first there. Okay, hi, I'm Chris Camp from the Chicago area. Thanks for having me this morning.
Rock on. Awesome. Thanks, Chris. Yep, everybody had to introduce themselves. We were just waiting on you. I know, but it's funny how sometimes I'll be sitting here listening, but I'll be distracted in some way, and I won't realize everybody's already said they're here, and I'm like sitting there going, what am I doing? Okay. So anyway, verse 57 of the Tao Te Ching. So who wants to read the verse, and then we can get this discussion going? Oh, wait. Before we do that, just so that everybody knows, in case you're watching this as a recording, I just started a Facebook group for our Saturday Mastermind and our community, which it's called Mindset Mastery Collective. And of course, I've talked about that before. We have a website and all that kind of thing, but now we have a Facebook group so that we can kind of share quote, pictures, blog posts, articles, any other things relating to what we're studying, or any kind of positive development, that kind of stuff. And I'm not sure if you'll find it by searching for Mindset Mastery Collective on Facebook or not. I don't know if it'll populate in that search results yet. But either way, it's I'll just tell you the long link because I haven't created a short link yet, but I will here in the future. The long link is facebook.com/groups/Mindset Mastery Collective, all one word. So, you can search for it that way. But I will create a short link here at some point in the near future for anybody who can just click on it. And of course, I'll have the link to it below the video here on YouTube and on our website as well. So, okay, read the first, for the verse 57. Who wants to read it today?
I'll read it.
Okie dokie.
57, right? I'm on the right page. Okay. If you want to be a leader, you must learn to follow the Tao. Stop trying to control. Let go of fixed plans and concepts, and the world will govern itself. How do I know this is so? Because in this world, the greater the restrictions and prohibitions, the more people are impoverished. The more advanced the weapons of state, the darker the nation. The more artful and crafty the plan, the stranger the outcome. The more laws are posted, the more thieves appear. Therefore, the sage says, I take no action and people are reformed. I enjoy peace and people become honest. I do nothing and people become rich. If I keep from imposing on people, they become themselves.
So, what was your first thought when you read this verse?
Hysterical laughter.
Why so?
Because this dude has obviously not been in my life this week. No, it's just hilarious. Just leading is a very interesting and educational journey. And it's something that, unfortunately, in businesses that I've been in, prior, I never made it there. So I didn't really have to deal with a lot of those. Hi, Jason. Glad you could join us. Didn't have to deal with many of the issues that I'm dealing with now. And it really is a challenge sometimes to know, like the past couple of days, I cracked the whip on some people. And so that's why I was laughing hysterically when I read this morning, because, when can you always just sit back? You can't, because nobody does anything. It's crazy. So I want to talk to this dude. I'm going to astral project to him. We're going to have a conversation over this one. But I totally get what he's saying. I do. It's just one of those things that is a little more challenging to do as opposed to just say it.
It's funny you mentioned the crack the whip thing. It was funny last night at my retail job. We have this one girl who is she's really outspoken. She's kind of got a loud voice and she's got a real bubbly personality, but she just kind of has this tell everybody what to do kind of air about her, and she does. She doesn't think twice about it either. And she got on the radio, and she was, because we all wear these little headset things, and she's like, okay, ladies, in women's department here now, so and so do this, and so do that, and so and so, and she just went down the list and was like, all right, let's go. And a couple of the people piped up on the radio and were like, well, okay, you're sounding a little extra bossy today or whatever. And somebody goes, hashtag, this or that, it's like hashtag bossy or something like that. And I was like, hashtag crack the whip. But it was funny. Anyway, that was my little thing for the day. So, Chris, jump out. You look like you're about to say something. Morning, Jason.
I was just enjoying what you said then there. Looking at the verse here, though. Morning, everybody. Hi, Jason. Thanks for coming. Glad everybody's here. Yeah, it cracks the whip. That was the Catholic one, right? Okay. Yeah, stop trying to control. I'm dealing with that one. Let go of fixed plans and concepts. The world will govern itself. Oh, I don't know. That between that one and the more laws that are posted, I don't know how that applies to our present national situation. I'm not sure if I can totally get on the boat with that. That one's complicated.
I confess I made an assumption and assumed that's why you were laughing hysterically, Catherine. I didn't realize you were so focused in on yourself when my picture was the pen being applied to one more directive.
when I first started reading the commentary, I guess I sort of took it off in my own direction when he said, the essential message in this verse is to allow rather than interfere. And I guess, you know, for me, I was putting it more, when I read that sentence, into like personal life, like into personal relationships, like with parents, friends, family, partner. You know, there's a lot of tendency to interfere or think that I maybe know something that they need to know better how to do, or and maybe sometimes, you know, stepping back and let them, you know, they're going through their own process and they'll find their own guidance. So there was one situation with a friend, and you know, I could tell they were going through something deep emotionally, and so I was trying to, you know, suggest different things, and nothing was working, and I was starting to get frustrated because I'm like, you know, and then I realized, like, I can't force somebody to go to where they're not ready to go, and sort of, okay, I realized I had to step back and allow that person to get their connection from source or wherever they're going to get it from, to have that healing in the way that they need to have it healed. You know, of course, you can suggest things and modalities to help people, but, you know, we never know what's really going to help people. So that's how I took it initially, you know, like allowing people to, you know, get through their processes and without interfering. Because I think, because I'm a healer too, that I tend to like, okay, do this, do this, do this. And then, you know, sometimes that doesn't work because they need to find it on their own. They find their own way and follow their own guidance and from the universe. So, and then it'll work better for them because they did it on their own. They'll feel stronger and stuff like that. If someone is always do this, then they, you know, they're more resistant a lot of the times, number one, and then a lot of times it doesn't stick because they didn't discover it themselves. They're sort of just following someone's advice instead of finding their own way. And yeah, I thought it was interesting, you know, with the kids too, that he mentioned about, you know, in families, about their curfew time for teenagers. Like if you allow them to just go and come when they come back home, they usually come earlier than you would have put a curfew time on. If you put a curfew time on, then they're more likely to stay out later than the curfew, or at least in my case, that was me when I was a teenager. I was a nightmare for my mother, but she put all those rules and curfews and this and that, and you know, I was completely rebellious, and I think a lot of teenagers are like that as they're coming into their own, and they have rules. It's like, break all the rules. So, yeah, I think that's an interesting thing, and I guess it's hard for parents. I can't imagine because I'm not one yet, but that you know, if you worry about your kids, so you want to put certain rules and stuff, and but really, it must be such a test of patience and freedom and all this stuff to really let your children figure out stuff on their own and trust that they'll be guided. So that's it for now.
Yeah, I like that you talked about the fact that you were so rebellious when you were younger. You know, I was the same way when I was a kid. You know, we had so many rules. And of course, I was firstborn, you know, and I don't know who else is firstborn in a family of multiples. You got the worst, and you got the most rules, the most, you know, everything. And, you know, it's funny the way that happens because, I mean, you're like the test baby, I guess you could say, for the parents, you know, and they're so afraid of everything. So you have all these rules and you end up being like the most rebellious one, you know, and you get into all kinds of problems and all this and that and the other. And then, you know, when your youngest little brother gets away with murder and doesn't even get a slap on the wrist, you're like, what the heck, you know? But, you know, and I took that kind of knowledge into my own parenting, knowing that, you know, all of those rules and how they made me feel and how they made me want to just go against everything my parents wanted because I thought so many of the rules were so ridiculous. And then, of course, once I moved out on my own, then yeah, I didn't stay out as late as I as I would stay out. I wouldn't go out in the middle of the night without my parents' permission. I didn't. It was like when I was on my own, I just wouldn't go. I just was like, I don't want to go out in the middle of the night. Why would I want to do that? I could if I wanted to, but it's funny how that works. But when of course, when I had my kids and I thought about those things, I'm like, all right, I got to really focus on what's really important and not worry so much about all this mumbo jumbo that my parents put on us as far as rules and guidelines and all of that kind of thing. And I've had so many people comment to me over the years about how they struggled so much with their teenagers. How you supposedly have this time in your kid's life where they become a teenager and all of a sudden they're all rebellious and everything. I didn't have that with my kids. And I think that the reason why was because I didn't put so many restrictions on what they were or what they weren't allowed to do. And when there was something that would come up that I didn't feel like was the most good idea for them to do, I wouldn't just say, no, you can't do it. I would go, okay, this is what I think, and this is why I think it. Now you have to make your own decision. If you decide this, then you're going to have these consequences. If you decide this, you're going to have those consequences. You have the power to choose which result you want to get out of your life. And I felt like they made better decisions knowing that, they had full power to make those choices. And but I just presented them with the consequences of which way they wanted to go, and I feel like they made better choices that way. So that's kind of my take on it, is versus just laying down the law, is saying you get to choose. You can choose whichever one you want. It's up to you, but here's your results. So anyway.
Hey guys, that's terrific, Samantha. I can appreciate that. I think that's the way to go with it. Give your kids some space, right? But talk to them and let give them some guidance too, right? Like Samantha said, if you can guide them, then it's much better than trying to push them in a direction that they're not necessarily ready to take. That's awesome. That's really great. Great to be here this morning, this Saturday morning. Good to see you all. Thanks so much. Sorry I'm late. I apologize. I snuck out last night against my curfew and I was up till about 4 a.m. So I didn't have my parents gave me a lot of space, but they didn't tell me, they didn't guide me. They just gave me space and let me do what I wanted to do. So I didn't have any real rules to push back against other than my own. And so now I test the waters everywhere I go, I guess. No, I'm more grown up than that, but I was up late. I was fixing my computers and stuff. I had some malware issues last week, and it's been really bothering me. So I've redone all 3 of my computers and set them up with some good protection there. So, but wow, yeah, this is a great another great verse. Trying to let go of the actions that or the expectations that you want from your surroundings, from your world, is a tough thing to do. And but I do see the wisdom in it, in kind of being a sounding board for people. And sometimes I've seen situations, or I've been in situations where someone enters your environment, and they are really they're agitated, or they're confused, or they definitely have stuff on their mind, and they come to you with maybe a question, and instinctively I might see what they're trying to get out of it and try to go directly there, but that may not be the process that they're ready to take, or they may be at a different point So it's very interesting, when you're trying to help guide someone or teach them something, and because you don't know what their knowledge is already. You don't know where they are with things, and they may already have a great knowledge about certain things, but and maybe only need just one little piece to bring it all together. So I find it really interesting when you can talk to someone and you see that light go off and that little spark go off, and they're like, aha, and you're like, okay, at least you see that energy, and it's kind of exciting, and you sometimes may realize, well, there's a lot more they need to know, but this is good for now, so the whole process is really awesome of learning. I see it in myself, I see it in others, these shifts, these mindset shifts, these paradigm shifts that happen when you open up to new ideas, new thoughts, or not necessarily new ideas, but older ideas that have really kind of come of age or come full circle. So they maybe even make more sense than they today than they did back when they were originally conceived. So wow, and that's what this book is all about. I mean, these are ancient writings, right, that are still relevant today, and it's just so interesting, and really looking forward to hearing more about what you all have to say the rest of this morning. It's great to be here. Hi, Karen. How are you doing today? Hi, Catherine. How are you too? Good to see you, Sandy and Samantha.
Hey, I was thinking how great it is to see you since we didn't see you last week.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate you. Yeah, glad to be back.
It's interesting. I mean, there's a lot of people that pay a lot of money to be coaches, to be told exactly, what to do so that somebody does crack the whip on them. And how do you know when someone finding their way wasn't guided to speak to you? So who knows? I think we just have to learn as we go, I guess. I'm going to start hashtagging crack the whip, though.
I think that's a good point. I mean, people hire coaches obviously because they realize that they need that, and yet I like Sandy's point of view. You have to allow at the same time. I mean, you could kind of put info out there. I think it's the difference between being pushy about it and just sharing your own experience and your own, thoughts that come up relating to it. If they're asking, I think that makes a big difference. If they're not asking, then you telling them maybe like talking to a brick wall, or they may, I don't know. I mean, I guess you just kind of have to go with your feelings about what they're saying, whether that seems like they're asking for your advice or whether it just seems like they're venting their frustrations. I think that's where the difference is.
I was just reading this little section about practicing the art of allowing yourself, and he's saying you can affirm, I am free to be myself. I do not have to live by anyone else's rules, and I release the need for laws to regulate my behavior. And it made me laugh because I got pulled over the other day for speeding. And so that's what I thought of when I read this. I'm like, oh, so I can speed, like I'm free to, I don't have to live by these rules. So it's funny, you can take it that way, but I know I guess that's not what he means. But so just thought that was funny.
I don't know. I think he does mean that to some extent, but we have to, follow our own ideas of what we feel is right for ourselves and realize that these man-made rules or laws or whatever do carry consequences with them in our communities, in our lives, and that sort of thing. But that, I mean, we can, yeah, I mean, really, is it really wrong to speed? I mean that, I don't know. But you do know there is a consequence if you get caught. It's when you get mad about being caught for doing something that the community says is wrong, that's where you end up having the issues, right? But I don't know. I guess if I'm speeding, then I kind of am like, yeah, okay, well, I'm speeding because I feel like driving fast today. I accept the fact that I might get in trouble for it, but I won't be upset at the cop if he's the one that happens to catch me doing it, right? I don't know.
That's funny because I wasn't upset. I mean, it wasn't a school zone, so I did feel bad because I didn't see the blinking lights and I was going double the speed in the school zone. And I'm like, ooh. So I'm like, oh no, that's bad. But, I'm like, whatever, I'm getting pulled over. And he saw that I was just like, I was happy. I'm like, hi, how are you? And he's like, so he's just chit-chatting with me, and I chit-chatted back, asked him some questions. Oh, what school's over here? And la la. I'm like, I'm sort of new here. And he's like, okay, I'm just going to give you a warning. So break the laws, but be nice afterwards. I get upset. Like, okay, I broke the law. I'm sorry. Let me go. Bye. I won't do it again.
He couldn't resist your happy personality, so
Yeah.
He would have felt bad if he'd have given you a ticket.
Yep. Okay. 110 in a neighborhood street. That's speeding. Don't do that. Maybe though on the highway. I was in Germany once on the Autobahn. They went real fast there. Don't seem to have much of a problem.
Yeah, and I think I've heard of that, like in Europe where they have really no speed limit in some places. Like people know how to drive. They don't, like there's probably less accidents than we have here because it's like this. You let them be and don't put a law on it, that they know what speed they should go and what they shouldn't go in certain areas. And it's sort of common sense, so, and I heard that they're like some of the safest roadways, like the Autobahn, like there's hardly ever accidents in the way they have the lanes, the slow lane, like you have to stick to the lanes, like if the left lane is always the fast lane. But here I find, slow people are a lot of times in the left lane and then you're like, So I guess that's a rule, like left lane is fast lane only, but people don't listen to it here. So it's not really a law. But yeah, I find when there's not so much restriction on the speed, like there seems to be less drama and problems and honking and people in the way. And so, yeah, it's interesting.
Maybe it's because they have that outlet. All that is set up specifically so they can speed, so they can go faster. And those people want to drive faster and they're used to driving fast, but not everybody, wants to do that, but they're all set up that way. And maybe it's because they know they can drive that fast. So if they want to, they can always go out to the Autobahn, hop on it and just take off, and, so it's, I guess we're getting back to why do we have rules and what, but it's up to us to decide, it's not about the rules, it's about our own, decision as to, what consequences, we want. The rules are there kind of to help us, and guide us, but, and then the warnings are there to, remind us. And those tickets are there to just piss us off. But goodness, I got a speeding ticket just for trying to pass somebody. Just for trying, what was it? I could either slow way down and get way behind everybody, or I could speed up just slightly to get in the lane so I could get off take the next exit. Well, of course, there was an officer on the other side of the hill, and they zapped me. So, and I explained to him, and he said, well, next time, slow down and get behind him to change lanes. And so that's what I do now, and that's safer, you know, and it doesn't always work, but hey, that's I mean, I have a little bit more respect for now that, you know, the laws are in place, but really we're out. I mean, especially after my accident recently, I mean, it doesn't take much force in a vehicle to hurt somebody severely. And you know, whenever we get out there on the road, we put our lives on the line. Everybody else out there is also in dangers too. So we need to be respectful not only for our own lives but for other people. So I really get that. But you know, I do see even in myself, when rules get put in place, that a tendency to want to either kind of ignore them or test them or go right up to the edge with them, you know. And of course, when you're flirting with that, you can, you know, easily cross over. So you know, hey, don't do it, right? But getting back to where we were talking about teaching and guiding and kind of letting people learn. I was working with someone a little while back where I was teaching the dashboards and how to set up some things, and they wanted to know some specific stuff, but I thought, or I knew that they needed to know not only that, but they needed to know all this other stuff. But as I was talking to them, and I was trying to tell them, I was trying to attack it, or, you know, take an angle or attack with it that would kind of show them the whole thing in a really nice package. But they were less concerned with that. They just wanted to know a couple certain details. And I had to let go of what I wanted and the way I wanted to teach them, and just say, okay, you know, figure out what it is that they really wanted, what they needed to move forward in their own mind. Because I realized that they had all this other stuff going on in their head. They had all these other, responsibilities and other tasks they knew, and so they were trying to make it fit. They're trying to make these new ideas fit into their concept or construct of how things worked together. And so the only way I could do that was to kind of guide them and just answer their specific questions rather than continue on and on and on like the way I'm doing right now. So it's really interesting. I find teaching fun, and it is great to see that spark go, you know, come on. And you know, but I do understand what he's saying there with letting certain things go, and they will come together on their own if they already have that momentum. Sometimes you just have to give them a little nudge in the right direction, and then let them be. That takes some courage on your own part too sometimes, doesn't it?
We're talking about the traffic, and I was reminded of this video that I saw. I don't know, it's been months, maybe years ago, I don't even remember, but it was this crazy intersection that didn't have a traffic light. It was like, you know, 10 lanes of traffic coming in every direction, and it was like a four-way, you know, basically. It wasn't a roundabout, it was just a four-way, and no traffic signs, no nothing. And I just found a video very similar to what I had seen on YouTube. I'm posting it in the Facebook group, because it just says craziest intersection with no traffic. And you got to check it out, because I mean, the cars are just all going, but they're all and they all get through one way or another. It's crazy. So you check it out. It's I'm putting it in the group right now.
That's cool, because I was thinking that I've seen videos like that, you know, where they just I don't know how they figure it out. Like, it's the craziest thing. And some of these laws, I mean, like some of the speed limit laws, obviously not like school zones, but I mean, out on the highways, that I think they started that, I want to say it was back in the 70s or something. And it was actually to save fuel and and things like that. But it's funny because, you know, we think some of those laws are in place for our protection, but are they really? Because I don't know about where you guys live, but out here, they're turning a lot of our roads. They're building this extra lane, and then people can pay the money to drive as fast as they want over there, you know. so so is it really for our protection, or, you know, it's just another way they can get some money out of us? I don't know.
I remember one time when I was riding with my grandparents, we were down in Texas, and I don't know what the laws of the road were or anything, but the road was like extra wide on a 2-lane road so that, you know, if somebody came up behind you, I guess the unwritten rule was just get over into the kind of, you know, let them go by and then you can come back over again. You know, it's just like, don't worry about what everybody else is doing, just make way and, and then everybody takes care of themselves. But yeah, I don't think so. I think there's so many stupid rules and laws, like this whole thing on marijuana, you know, all these baloney laws against that. It's like, really, you know, if somebody wants to smoke it, let them smoke it. Who cares what they're doing, you know? I mean, it's stuff like that. I mean, that's kind of like a big one right now because there are so many states that are kind of you know, they're deciding whether or not they want to allow it. And I'm like, what difference does it make to you? I mean, it's got to be all about money, you know, or the Bible thumpers. I don't know. Who knows? They just think that it was wrong way back when, so it has to still be wrong now. I don't know. But even before there was no laws, you know, we made up all these laws for one reason or another. We were upset because someone was in our face and we didn't like it, so we make a law about it. You know, it's like those old laws that are still on the books about, you know, it's illegal to spit on the sidewalk or stupid shit like that. And yet, or, you know, or about the appropriate ways to, you know, engage in intercourse. I mean, have you heard about those silly laws? Like, whose business is that? Why is there even a law about that? It makes no sense, you know? So, yeah. Okay.
Wait, what law is that, Samantha? I haven't heard of that.
I don't remember. It was like, I don't remember who was talking about it. It was like some post on Facebook of, you know, crazy laws still on the books, you know, when it was one in some little town that missionary position was the only one that you're supposed to do, you know, or whatever. You know, it's like, really? I mean, you get a video camera there, you know, watching? I don't know. It's silly. Okay, I'm done.
They have an intercourse police in that town, peeping Toms.
There's a lot of rules on the books about like oral sex and things like that. And a lot of that had to come. I mean, you got to imagine a lot of that had to come from religious powers being, you know, pushed around, and because how did it ever become called the missionary position to begin with?
That's how missionaries do it. I don't know.
I've always wondered about that question, actually. I think I'm going to have to do some research on it.
I'm sure that it's only called that in certain cultures. What, you know, it can't be called that everywhere, right? They've got to call it something else. I don't know. What do they call it in the Kama Sutra? You know?
Well, I think, you know, rules can definitely be burdensome. They can be overreaching. You know, going back to like what you said, Samantha, and I completely agree with what, you know, how you were saying. You talk to your children and you know, you educated them on, you know, their own you know, personal responsibilities, and and the consequence, their own personal consequences to their own actions. And you know, you gave them that knowledge. You educated them about it. And you know, I'm just recently, even I'm getting more and more excuse me, I'm more and more under the understanding that, you know, we just do not have the right education system set in place in this country, and I'm sure all across the world. You know, people just aren't getting the knowledge that they need so that they can make their own decisions in a way that is, you know, is beneficial to them, as if they were to know what the consequences would be. And so they think the only reason that not to do something is because there's a law or because there's a rule. And so they're like, and then they hear someone like us, you know, saying that, oh, rules are, you know, they're you know, who needs rules? You know, we should be able to do what we want and it'll come together, you know. But they don't realize that we're coming to that understanding because we already have the knowledge of what needs, you know, how these consequences can come to pass. So, you know, I think, you know, in a large part, they're in place because of those people that, you know, aren't from the neighborhood. They don't know the local, you know, the local rule that, hey, just go ahead and let somebody over because there's no passing lane, or, you know, hey, we're, you know, so because they're new to the area, they don't have the knowledge. They don't, you know, can't make those decisions as effectively. And that, and in a situation with, like, on the road, it can really cause a huge problem. And, you know, if people make the mistake or aren't aware of those things. So the rules are in place, I guess, in absence of the knowledge of our own, you know, what the consequences might be, I guess. I don't know. What do you guys think?
You know, I think that's a good point, Jason, is that I guess it's just easier to throw out that list of laws and say, don't do these things, and not tell anybody the real reasons why. And, you know, why don't we do these things? Why don't we drive 100 miles an hour on the busy highway when there's 50 lanes of traffic? And, you know, I mean, I think that's a good point. It's that we need to focus more when, and I say it starts with our children. Of course, if you don't have children, then, you know, if you have children, we just have to start thinking in terms of, we need to help our children understand not necessarily the difference between what is quote unquote right or wrong, because that changes from decade to decade as to, you know, what is considered right or wrong, but what the consequences are to the actions that we take and how those things affect other people. And then, you know, okay, can you live with that, whatever that is? And, you know, and help people learn how to be empathetic to other people, and help, you know, understand why it's important to be respectful of one another. And when we understand those basic things, is that then it becomes easy to navigate the world, because you're just not out there just for your own self. You realize that what you do affects other people in different ways. And that's really the key, in my opinion, because it isn't just about whether or not you should or shouldn't do it. It's a matter of, how is that going to affect the other people that you come into contact with on a daily basis? How is that going to affect your family members or your friends or people you don't necessarily even know? Is it going to affect them in some way? Like the whole thing, like with the smoking marijuana, you know, if I decide I want to smoke at my house, how is that going to affect anyone? You know, it'll affect my husband because he's here, so he'll have to breathe that. You know, if I had kids, it would affect them, so I have to take that into consideration. You know, if I go outside, it might affect other people's kids. If they see it, then they might think it's okay when their parents maybe disagree with it or whatever. So, I mean, we look at all these different aspects of our actions and we teach kids to see those things, then, you know, then we're going to have, you know, much more well-developed people in the world who are going to be able to navigate this world in a way that is just a positive influence versus just a stick in the mud, or a difficult, rock in the road, or whatever you want to call it, is rather than being impeding everyone else in some way because you're just being a jerk, then, you're going with the flow of everyone else, and, you're allowing other people to be who they are, and you're being who you are without trying to cut people off in the process. I don't know, that's my thought on it.
Yeah, I think decriminalize marijuana. That's an easy one. That one. To me, there's not even really a question there. That's not really the level they have it at just seems goofy to me. But when we first went through this verse, and nobody likes to talk about politics, but we got the state here, we got governing the South, imposing. I sort of had kind of a question in my mind that, obviously probably there were more peaceful people maybe at that time. Maybe some of them were less involved when he's writing this, Is it a more peaceful place? Are there more... I don't know. There's been a lot of wars over time. I'm not sure exactly how the history was at that time. My question was kind of like, okay, so I see this greater restrictions and prohibitions, and there's certain things that totally make sense that just don't need to be restricted and stuff. But I also have the question, so yeah, I'm gonna say it. Trump and some of these people, they have the concept, and I know other groups do too, that there should be as few restrictions as possible. Well, they also think there's no consequence of humanity on the environment. So I'm not sure that all restrictions should be taken away. I think there has to be some check and balance system, because I am not convinced that everybody is going to govern themselves properly. I think there's a lot of screwed up people. And so we need to have some level of check and balance system, because otherwise they're going to go right away and do the pipeline. Otherwise they're going to go right away and I don't know, rip off the little guy, so I don't know. My mind goes a little bit back and forth with that. I think there needs to be some restrictions. I know groups. I know people who think all the restrictions should be taken away. I'm involved with people like that, but I'm not so sure about that. I think there has to be some level of restriction, because I think there's a lot of shenanigans and people with less than ideal intentions.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're correct there. There definitely needs to be regulations. They can be burdensome if they go too far. However, that needs to be looked at in a reasonable way as well. But yeah, we need to have regulations, because we're kind of in a world of rules. You can't live in a world of rules and then in certain areas or for certain people they don't have rules, because then they could definitely take advantage. And there's always that one person that thinks they know more than everyone else, and they're allowed to cut corners and it's okay. And well, if they just do it a certain way, it'll be okay, even though it puts everybody else out. Just for their own personal gain, or for the gain of their small community or large community compared, whatever. If it's not for the good of everyone, then it needs to be taken. You need to take a better look at it and see what you can do to make it more amicable, I think, or more balanced. I get this thing with the regulations where they're talking about how banking regulations have kind of put a stranglehold on the small businesses and that, but the thing is the regulations on the banks, not having the regulations on the banks is what caused an issue where everybody had a problem with their loans and to begin with. So I find it funny to see that the ones that are really hopping mad about it are the big banks, which they're making more money than they know what to do with anyway. So but they come out with these reasons. They try to bring up these smaller reasons as to why they need to have less regulation so they can do more of crafting of their different hedge funds and what have you. And they're always willing, we have as humans, we always want to kind of push the envelope of what's possible in whatever we're doing. I mean, that's kind of natural. However, there's a spot where you kind of just need to, okay, we got momentum, let's cruise. And let's not constantly try to build up more speed until we figure out, whoa, we're going too fast and we're starting to get the high speed wobbles. And as soon as we lose our wheels and the whole thing comes to a crashing halt. So yeah, I mean, we do. In my view, is what you were talking about there, Chris. I think you're right in a big way. I do think we do need the regulations, and we need to be considering all things, our impact over a lot longer time span than just even our own lives. And for us, it's as an individual, it's hard for me to look past my own lifespan. But when I do, I want good things for the people that come after us. So, we got to take some responsibility for that as well.
I've been doing quite a bit of thinking in the process of going through this verse about how people grow. I've been thinking about how my parents grew with me. I mean, Samantha talked quite a bit about, looking at her parents and not wanting to be like her parents, and the positive effects that came from those reflections. And I'm the oldest of four. I think the first child is, kind of the big experiment. It's kind of like, what do we have to do, to be good parents, to keep kids in line? And one of my forceful memories from childhood is in first grade. I lived 7 miles out of town, and my parents had said, don't leave the school ground, during school, and go off. And one day I had a schoolmate who invited me to go to her house for lunch, and I'm sure I didn't really cogitate through, hey, this sounds like a breaking of the rules. It just sounded kind of yummy. And anyway, I went ahead and did that, and the teacher, in finding out, who knows, I don't recall how that happened, but she sent home a note pinned to my coat to my parents as to what had happened. My mother was quite distraught, waited for my dad to come home. I think it was the next morning I got the belting, the whole thing had processed through. And then I was stupid enough or obedient enough to wear another note pinned to my coat back to school. And lo and behold, we weren't done. Then I remember that day, my teacher and I marched up the steps with varying degrees of willingness to see the principle. And, you know, I think about how that Samantha had said earlier that in thinking about speeding, she might think, well, I might get in trouble for this, you know, and just kind of be aware of that. And I've man, that shut me down like you wouldn't believe, because I was like, as soon as I think about I might get in trouble for this, you know, it's like 6 degrees of trouble. You know, it's not just a little pat on the behind. And anyway, I was trying to think, did my parents continue on that way? Well, I don't know that my siblings, any of them, have a similar story to tell when they did something wrong, and it, you know, it carried on into this and carried on into that. And certainly, you know, any memories that I have further, trust me, I would have remembered if there'd been another incident like that, and there wasn't. So, you know, I just think one of the things that we have to look at in our lives is that I don't know how many generations we have milling about now. It seems like when I was growing up, you know, we had me, my parents, my grandparents. There were like 3 generations, and now there's like, you know, the young bloods. No, that's my name. But whatever there is, there's a whole bunch of them, and you know, everybody's trying to find their way. And one of the things that I enjoy about this, it's he wrote this to say, if you want to be a great leader, you must learn to follow the Tao. Stop trying to control. And then at the end, he says, if I keep from imposing on people, they become themselves. Now, there are, it seems, a lot more crazy people in terms of people who have developed this lifestyle of lying and expanding and, you know, tabbing and just all that kind of stuff. And there, it does seem to me that there are a lot more people who need to be controlled. But I think if we look around, there are a lot more people who have become themselves and are just doing a shining job. I mean, I just can't believe every day on the internet all the people I run into who have clearly molded themselves into people who are great examples. And I'm going to wrap this up and say, it was wonderful being on, and I always love you. Thanks.
I just realized we're at the top of the hour. Wow, this hour went by fast.
Yeah.
You know, I wanted to just real quick, you know, Jason and Chris, you know, I agree with you in the fact that, you know, we do need laws now, you know, because, I mean, we weren't taught the Tao. We weren't taught how to look at how all the different ways that we affect everything in our lives and the people around us and our world and all of that. We weren't taught those things. And so we have no choice but to just have laws that say. But so my question then is what if we had been taught those things? What if we had been taught as we were growing up all the different ways that everything we do affects everything else versus all the different ways of the 6 degrees of punishment you're going to receive if you don't follow the rules? What would our world look like then? You know, if we weren't taught the only way to live is to be number one, be first, get that straight A, blah blah blah, but don't, you know, cross the rules, otherwise you're going to be punished. You know, what if we all you know, we're taught instead that you know, everything we do affects everything else, and we should work together in every way we can so we can all be number one, you know?
Oh, if everyone was raised with Lao Tzu's Taoist ideas, and
Mm-hmm.
people had gone the way of the Tao and no religion and wars, the world would be a pretty beautiful place, probably. Yeah. And it's beautiful. It's beautiful world. Anyway, I am going to say, since we're at the top of the hour here, and we can continue on as anyone wants, but today we usually meet for an hour here, and if you'd like to come join us at zoomsaturdayMorningMastermind.com, we're here every week at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 Central Standard Time, and we'd love to have you come join us. Please come and join our Zoom, and if you go there, you'll have the number and you can get online.
Awesome. Thanks, Chris. Thanks. Glad to be here, everybody. Yeah, so go out there and, have a great weekend. Remember to buckle up. I'm going to become a public service announcement here. Watch out for motorcycles. Just say no. It's interesting what you said about weed. I think everybody should, have their own, be able to do what they want to do for the most part. But what we do here on this mindset mastermind and what people like us do as far as searching for a better personal development and a better understanding, better alignment in our lives with the things that we actually want. All that needs, requires focus. And if you're doing these other things, if you have a drinking problem or a smoking problem, or if you're, or even if you're on medications that make you dizzy, that are your doctors prescribes to you, it says you got to take. That does not allow you to develop to your full potential. So that's one of those consequences. It's not necessarily a rule, not a law, but we need to be aware of that. So, going forward, hope you can take those words to heart and maybe, get to where you want to go a little faster. It's been great to be on here this morning, and I hope we can see you all again real soon.
Anybody else have final thoughts before we wrap up for today?
Yeah, I'll jump out for a second. Obviously, Lao Tzu did not have to deal with compliance issues. I'm serious. We have compliance issues. We have to crack the whip over sometimes. No, but I totally get where this verse is coming from. And one of the things that we learn, and everybody here is a leader, one of the things you learn as a leader is that you need to be developing other leaders. You don't want to develop followers. You don't want to develop people that are waiting for you to tell them what to do and how to do it, and when to do it, because you wind up creating this conglomeration of neediness that can completely drain you of every essence of your soul. So you do not want to do that. You want to develop other leaders and teach people, like you said, Samantha, about consequences. I think part of this is not being attached. When we're talking about don't be in control, there are rules, but I don't know if you've ever been in a court of law. I have been in several, not because I was arrested, but because I had friends and I was there in support of them or whatever. And then there's, these judge shows you could watch on TV back when I used to watch TV. But if you've ever noticed, judges rarely get emotional. You know what I mean? Somebody could come in and do this horrendous crime. They might, crack the whip a little bit on them, but primarily they just deliver the sentence. They get the decision from the jury or whatnot, but they're not up there in this emotional thing. They just know, okay, there was this rule, this person broke it, this is the consequence, psh, that's it, you know. And learning not to be emotionally attached to things, and learning that you can't control. I mean, you cannot control what other people do. You can try to guide them. You can put some, you know, rules out there, because people are so self-centered. That's why rules have had to come into place, obviously, because, but then again, you know, like the guy that lived with the Indians back in the day, he lived with all these, what was his name? Something, George Catlin or something like that. And he said, I love a people that can govern themselves without rules. You know, that in the days of the communities with the teepees and everything, there was no locks on the teepees, you know. I mean, people just didn't steal from each other. So there has certainly been periods in time where that worked. I'm not so sure that it can apply completely now. I mean, we have to change, and even these verses, he's giving us rules, sort of, in a way, but in a guiding sort of way. So learning how to self-govern, I think that's probably one of the most important gifts that we can give to our children, teaching them how to self-govern and how not to get emotionally attached to things, and how, you know, certain consequences. So, because people do rebel, right? I mean, I was like so totally rebellious, but at the same time, there's just a lot of craziness in the world. I just don't think we can do it without some kind of rules, even if it's just, I'm not religious, but I do sort of live by the 10 Commandments. You know, there's just like this, there are certain things that just feel really bad when you do them. I don't know, maybe that's just being ingrained in me, but amazing conversation. It was a great verse. I always love being here with you guys, so thank you so much. Have a great week.
Anybody else? Final thoughts? All right, guys. We'll have an awesome, amazing, wonderful weekend, and we will see you next week on the Saturday Morning Mastermind. You can find all of our replays at replays.saturdaymorningmastermind.com. Check out our Facebook group, and I did just do a Mindset Mastery Collective search, and it did come up. Now, I don't know if that's because I was already a member of the group or not. If you're not a member of the group, it may not. I don't know how Facebook search works, but maybe everybody give it a try and see if it pops up. So, of course, you're all members too. But invite your friends. Everybody jump in there, add your thoughts, share your opinions on what we're talking about, share your lessons learned and insights and all of that kind of thing. And we'll see you next week on the Saturday Morning Mastermind. Bye for now.